it just in case you get a
Yeah,
chance or you
perfect.
wish
Yeah.
to watch, and
Mhm.
what can I go from? Okay, you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay, all right. Hi, Harleen. Can you hear me okay?
Hi, Brenda. Yeah, I can hear you fine.
Yeah, excellent, excellent. How's your week going so far?
Yeah, it's great. It's pretty good. I can see it's raining outside. How about you?
Yeah, no, thank you. Yes, thanks for asking. Yeah, we had a good day. A couple days ago, I think it was on Monday, we had some nice weather for a change, which
Hmm.
was nice. So I think spring is here, and I'm looking forward um
Hmm.
to doing that. So yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So thank you again for putting in your application. I have gone through and reviewed your overall application with your resume, and your essays. I can tell you put a lot of work into those. So the goal really today is to get to know you a little bit more than from what I've already gleaned from reviewing those documents. And so with that in mind, I prepared some questions I'm going to ask today, but I will also leave time towards the end of our conversation for any questions you may have. More housekeeping. If you see me glancing off to the side or making some notes, that's just because I'm doing what I can to capture our conversation. So I guess without any, as a starting point, even though I have your resume right here, I do think it's helpful. If you can just tell me a little bit about yourself as a starting point.
Sure. So first of all, thank you for the opportunity to speak with me today. I begin my career with a bachelor's of degree in computer science in India. And in 2018, I moved to Canada to pursue my master's in computer engineering at the University of Ottawa, where I received my first full-time role and promotion while building my career in a new country. Over the past decade, I can say my work has developed at the intersection of technology, delivery, data decision making, and leadership across academia, telecommunication, public sector, and real estates. So, at the University of Ottawa, I led IT product initiatives supporting institutional operations. Before that, at Ericsson, I worked across global product, engineering, and operation teams on large scale and complex data platforms. Later, at the Canada Revenue Agency, I served as a data product lead, delivering an executive performance dashboard used by more than 250 senior leaders to support the national decision making. At GCA Ottawa, I progressed from director to president and now advisor, leading strategic planning and digital transformation and modernization initiatives that really strengthen the organizational visibility. I've been expanding my perspective on AI-enabled transformation through agentic AI product work, which has strengthened my interest in contributing at the blend of data, strategy, people, and organizational impact. Outside of work, I enjoy exploring through cooking and staying current with the emerging shopping as a way to relax and recharge. I'm happy to go into the details of these if you would like me.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you, Harleen, for that intro. JCI, tell me a little bit more about that organization. I'm not familiar. I'm familiar with all the other organizations you mentioned.
Definitely. So, my experience at JCA Ottawa has been one of the most formative leadership journeys in my career. I progressed through multiple executive roles from director to immediate
Yeah,
past
sorry. I
president.
just meant just about JCI. Like, tell me a little bit more about the company, not necessarily your experience. So I'll get into that soon.
Oh, sure. Oh, my
Yeah, sorry, I
apologies.
wasn't clear on my question.
Yeah, no problem. So JCA Ottawa stands for Junior Chamber International. It's an organization that helps to grow and develop young leaders so that they can achieve their goals and progress in the leadership development phase. So with that said, if the person is under 40 years, they can join the organization and can become a part of it and can learn new skills, how they can actually energize their leadership strategies and make sure they can develop those strategies through participating in several events or taking any board positions across the role.
Okay, thank you. Thanks. That's good clarity. Of all the roles that you've had so far, Harleen, which one's been your favorite experience, and why?
So for me, I think JCA Ottawa has been one of the most formative leadership journeys in my career so far. I really progressed through multiple executive roles from director to president and now advisor, contributing to both strategy and governance continuity across the organization. And I can say, as president, I led the chapter strategic roadmap and increased the member engagement by 35%. And now, as an advisor, I contribute strengthening the PMO governance practices across different initiatives. And also, I can say receiving the Significant Contributor Award reinforced for me that leadership is most effective when it builds systems and people that continue to grow beyond one's individual's tenure.
Okay, okay. Thank you for sharing that. Can you tell me a little bit about at what point did you decide that you wanted an MBA? And then, you know, and why, I guess. When did you decide you wanted an MBA and why?
I think that's a great question. So I can say I think for me, MBA is quite important right now because my role has begun shifting from delivering transformation programs to contributing to conversations around investment priorities and AI enabled strategy. And I think that transformation is exactly why this is the right time for me to pursue an MBA. And I can say at this stage, I'm looking to strengthen my capabilities in areas like finance, legal, strategy, operations, and economic and industry analysis. So I think I can actually contribute more effectively at the enterprise decision level.
Okay, okay. And then can you share a little bit about why Queens and this specifically this program, how this fits into your life?
Definitely. So, what extra attracts me to Smith, I say Queens, intentionally, the program prepares leaders to operate in environments that are really shaped by technological change, global uncertainty, and evolving organizational expectations. And I think that's really closely reflects the transformation environments I'm already working in. And I'm actually particularly drawn to the team-based cohort model and live faculty interaction. And because throughout my career, I have seen that the strongest decisions emerge when diverse perspectives are aligned across functions and across stakeholders. And I think the global MBA format is the right fit for me because it allows me to continue leading enterprise data and transformation initiatives while immediately applying what I learn in strategy, operations, and other domains.
Okay, okay. And then what do you anticipate maybe the biggest challenge you may encounter during the program?
I think in terms of challenges is I can say it's a challenge, but it's more about aligning the priorities while learning at Smith School of Business because it's all about how we actually manage our time makes the biggest difference. So, and be with that said, I'm being very intentional about preparing it. Throughout my journey, I've balanced multiple responsibilities at the same time. For instance, completing my previous master's degree after relocating to Canada while managing professional commitments. And I can say more frequently, and I have supported analytics decisions across different domains alongside teaching and executive responsibilities with JCI Ottawa. And I can say that's really strengthened my approach to structured prioritization.
Your own sort of ability to manage various priorities. When you think about your career, can you share a little bit about what you plan, how this MBA will help, or yeah, how this MBA will help you further your career goals, and what does that look like in 5 to 10 years?
I think it's a very thoughtful question. So when it comes to making sure my career goals are aligned in 5 to 10 years down the line, it's more about how I can actually see the importance of having this MBA and also making sure I get value out of it. So in the short term, I can say it's one of the best the core program I'll be getting once I'm getting to it is how I can strengthen my decisions across enterprise level environments. And in terms of the longer run, I want to see myself in stepping into more senior leadership positions where I can assist organizations navigate large scale transformation in environments that increasingly shaped by the data, global uncertainty, and AI enabled workflows.
Okay. And then, so do you have like a specific like type of company you'd like to work for? Like small, medium, like you planning on staying in Ottawa? Like maybe what does that look like a little bit more on a specific level?
As you know, for me, as I'm coming from diverse background, as I had experience across telecommunication, real estate, cloud-based education, and also the environment sectors. So I prefer to stay in the IT area, and I'm open to relocate as I'm frequently looking for positions which give me a boost to enhance my leadership trajectory. And yeah.
Okay. Okay. Thank you for that. Can you share a little bit about, so my assumption uh, my assumption is when somebody's pursuing an MBA that there's a genuine interest in the broader business context. And so can you share like what topics do you tend to follow? And have you read an article recently that may make a great class discussion, or listen to a podcast or a video?
Sure. So I think the biggest, from a business leadership perspective, I see three major forces, right, shaping the economy right now. First is geopolitical energy uncertainty. Another one is inflation-driven operating predictability. And finally, the AI-enabled operating models. And I can say across all these three continuing growing issues across the economy that makes the country difficult to live in. So we need to make sure the all the prevailing issues can be solved, right? And while listening to the podcast, I can say, as I'm a technology oriented person, I like to listen different podcasts related to the AI trends, right? I also read some of the posts on LinkedIn as well as on Substacks.
Okay, okay, great. And so sorry, I don't know if I missed it, but was there a specific article or post that you came across that would make a good class discussion, and why?
So in terms of having class discussion more engaging, I make sure the class understands the recurring and prevailing issues across the IT industry that really navigating the job market. So from the current article, I read an article where Anthropic released a discussion that this job soon going to be automated by the help of Claude code and co-work. So these are the specific tools that really gonna help the companies to make sure their whole workflows can be automated easily. And I think that's one of the greatest, I can say, blessing as well as challenge towards the workforce, because when such kind of systems comes into place, they're really gonna eliminate the human workforce. So I
Okay.
think the class students really need to make sure they understand the pros and cons of AI, which we are currently living in world.
Okay. Okay. Thanks. Um, what qualities would make you a really good classmate or a peer to your fellow classmates? What are some of the qualities that make you a really good classmate?
Yeah, so one of the key capabilities is connecting strategy, execution, and people. What I believe in complex spaces. And I can say across all my roles, I've worked at the blend of analytics, delivery, and stakeholder alignment that helps to translate the technical insights into decision supporting tools. And another strength is mentorship. Throughout teaching more than 400 students and leading teams at, I can say, JCA Ottawa, I consistently focus on helping others grow alongside my organizational outcomes. And I believe together these strengths allow me to bring both structure and people development into the teams I work with.
Okay. Okay. Thank you for that. Sorry, I'm just gonna take a little drink here.
No problem.
Um, so thinking about like just getting you to envision your life, I don't know, let's say 4 or 5 years after you graduate, and let's play it out that you're having a coffee or a tea with one of your classmates and reflecting on the experience you've had at Queen's. What kinds of things or milestones would have had to happen for you to reflect on to go, wow, I made this was a great decision to come here in this specific program?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. When it comes to meeting a classmate after a few years, especially in being a part of a global alumni network at Smith, it's more about how we can actually bring those learnings back to the network, back to the school. And I think that's the great way to connect and reflect on those learnings. And let's see if someone needs any help, we can actually help them. And as given by you in the given situation, I really want to understand and how I can actually emphasize on the people's need. So let's say I met this guy, as you already stated, right, a classmate, and there I can actually share what I did in my career, right, after graduating from from Smith School, right, and how I can bring those kind of opportunities. Let's say if someone needs any help in at Smith, I can actually give them that kind of assistance. And if I at that teammate really wants me to help in his or her career path, and I'm happy to go and beyond my limits so that he or she can understand the benefits of being in the Smith Global MBA. And I think that's the great way to help the university as well as its students to grow in a more designated way. And I think that's the main conclusion here, or I can say is always you should help people irrespective of thinking anything else. And that's the way I think we should all grow.
That so much. So I've got a series of questions that are a little bit more they call it like behavioral. So so what that means is looking for a very specific example that you can speak to. And um, leadership can kind of come in all different forms. But let's say for this, the definition right now is can you share an example of a time where you demonstrated leadership in terms of coming up with some sort of solution or coming up with an idea and your role in garnering interest and championing that idea and solution forward?
Sure. Let me give you an example from the experience which I had in the past, right? So, one strong example comes from my time at Ericsson when we learned that the environment hosting the automate intelligence-based databases supporting both the UAT and production was scheduled for shutdown. That created a immediate operational risk for service teams. So rather than treating this only as a technical migration issue, I positioned it as the platform sustainability decision and recommended migrating from IBM Kyndryl MTP Cloud to AWS. And I also aligned other members on risk and trade-offs to secure further fundings. And I make sure I partner with architects to redesign the pipelines and also organize the targeted AWS upskilling so the teams can actually could and easily could operate at the platform confidently. And I can say that time the migration was delivered on time and within the budget because I was actually operating at a leadership position where my team members helped me to get this situation completed within a given time frame and within a given budget. It really helped us to improve the database performance as well by almost 60%, I can say. And that really positioned the platform to scale more reliably as usage grew. And I can say that experience really shaped how I approach the complex transformation challenges at a leadership position level. I also focus on aligning business priorities early, and making sure we build the solutions that remain sustainable as organizations scale. And I think it's also one of the reasons I'm particularly interested in strengthening my enterprise strategy from a leadership perspective through the Global Smith MBA.
Awesome. That's great. Thank you. If you had to go back in that situation today, what would you do differently or change up if you had the opportunity to do so?
Yeah, I think that's the great way to learn from these situations which we had in the past, right? So if I were in that situation and I really want to modify some of the things which I couldn't do around that time, maybe if I've given this situation right now, is to understand how I can make sure the platform migration can be done easily instead of waiting for the risk to arise, right? Because the platform migration was done because we were near to the close down date. So instead of waiting for the risk to arise, it's better to solve those situations beforehand.
That's fair. I could see that being. Um, can you tell me about what's your strategy when you're joining a newly formed team? How do you go about? Uh, we have a lot of teams here at Smith, and especially remote. So, what is your strategy joining a
And
newly formed team?
yeah, so I think team-based environments has been a central part to my work, I can say, across both professional and community leadership positions. Let me give an example. At JCA Ottawa, I worked with cross-functional leadership teams to deliver strategic initiatives through strengthened participations and governance continuity. And I can see across at the Canada Revenue Agency and Ericsson, I also coordinated global teams across engineering, product, and operations that help us to support decision making at scale. And because of all these experiences, that really helps me to bring people together that where we can actually strengthen the perspectives and making sure the knowledge and the decisions come together at a designated position. And I think that's one of the perspective and strong capability for me to operate in a team-based environment, and so that I can bring the clarity, structure, and purpose to the team-driven mission events at Smith Global MBA.
Thank you. Because not all team environments um, are always perfect and works it fluidly. Can you tell me about a challenge you faced while working in a team environment?
Oh, definitely. I think one of the strong example comes from my experience leading delivery of the collections and verifications branch performance at the Canada Revenue Agency, where I worked with the diverse teams across cloud engineering who were responsible for managing the cloud, data science, those who actually supported the data analysis process of the dashboard, then architecture creation, and who were actually created the architecture of the dashboard, then governance, and finally the data steward team who were there to provide their approvals in terms of data consumption. And I think all the three, and also working with the other three directorates, because they were the actually main stakeholders who actually utilized this dashboard. Because I can say at that time, priorities varied across groups. My role focused on creating alignment early. So as a result, I facilitated the working sessions where teams jointly defined key performance indicators and reporting expectations so everyone understood both what we were building and why it mattered. And throughout my delivery, I maintained cohesion through clear user stories and shared delivery guardrails and making sure the stakeholders were aligned at that time. As a result, I can say the data accuracy improved around 40% and executive confidence in the dashboard enhanced significantly. And that situation showed me that diverse teams perform best when alignment is created early and ownership is shared. I think which is why Smith's team-based learning format strongly aligns with how I already work.
Thank you for sharing. I appreciate that, and I feel like I can see the relevancy at Smith um, for an experience like that. Because we're not perfect, we are human. Uh,
Mhm.
Mistakes happen. Can you share a time where you made a mistake and maybe share what that mistake was and how you recovered and maybe what you learned from that situation?
Yeah, I think it's a great question, right? Because we are living in a human era where people can make mistakes usually, and we need to understand how we can actually overcome those situations. So while working in different organizations, it helps us to understand how we can actually help the team to grow instead of just focusing on the mistake part. So let me give an example from one of the leadership mistake I made during my first cross team delivery role, supporting human resources and finance transformation initiatives at the University of Ottawa. So I can say early in the program, integration dependencies being affecting the timelines, and initially I had tried to manage those risks within the given time frame, but instead of escalating them early to stakeholders. So, what I did once I recognized the impact, I escalated the dependencies transparently and also aligned the priorities and finally introduced the structure checkpoints so to stabilize the coordination across teams. And that really helped to restore the trust across the program and prevent larger implementation risk. So more importantly for me, I applied that learning forward in later roles such as Canada Revenue Agency and Ericsson. I introduced early dependency tracking and visibility frameworks at the start of initiatives, which significantly boosted delivery alignment. And the key lesson for me was that at time is to make sure the effective leadership means creating early visibility or across the risk, and so teams can stay aligned and succeed together. And I think that mindset continues to shape how I lead complex initiatives today as well. And I think is one of the strong reason that I value Smith's team-based learning cohort, where shared accountability really strengthens the decision-making capability.
That's great. I appreciate you sharing that. I know it's not easy in an interview to share a mistake or some vulnerability, but that was an excellent example. So thank you for yeah, conveying that. Um, can you share a time where you went above and beyond the call of duty to get a job done, and what did you do, and what was the outcome and lessons learned?
I think it sounds like a great question where a person needs to understand how to make sure we get the job done. Because sometimes we are really restricted by the time bound, which we need to complete a given time frame. But I really want to make sure I give you a best example from my experience. So let me share an example. A situation where I took initiative during my time at the University of Ottawa, where I noticed many delivery teams were still operating primarily in waterfall environments, even when the projects would have benefited from more iterative agile practices. And it at that time it was a main concern to make sure the team understands the importance of agile practices.
And so,
So
sorry,
what
what is waterfall, or are you going to speak to that? What is the difference between waterfall and agile? I don't come from a technical background, so
No
yeah.
problem. Let me explain you. Right, that's okay. So waterfall is a kind of I can say the methodology where you deliver the software in the end instead of getting the stakeholders involved at every stage. You once you create the software, once you get the requirements, then you deliver the software to the stakeholders, and then you get their feedback. So as we are living in a technology world where the feedback plays a critical role at every stage of the development of the software. So I think teams really need to understand during that time the importance of agile methodology. And agile methodology is a kind of, I can say, process where you get the stakeholders' feedback at every stage of the development. And I think that's the way currently the companies are working in that kind of environment, right? So with that said, I proposed the launching an internal knowledge sharing initiative called Agile to Assist, and formed a small cross-functional working group to run smoothly and perfectly monthly workshops and practical sessions. And you know that the first session attracted over 200 participants, and the adoption applying the agile practices in their own projects. And I think that initiative was later recognized by the IT leadership for improving the cross-team collaboration and delivery alignment. And that experience showed me how creating shared learning platforms can generate impact beyond a single project. And that kind of initiative I took, right, because it was one of the highly required, and also make sure all the teams at University of Ottawa understand at that time the importance of agile methodology phase. That was not an easy step for me at that time. However, there were several roadblocks during the whole project. I make sure I overcome those roadblocks during that time by giving my best and by the support of my leadership. And I was actually able to complete the project and make sure its impact stays intact at that time.
That's great. Thank you for sharing that. At Smith and at Queen's, we have we pride ourselves on living and breathing by our values. And so, can you pick one of our values and speak to an example that shows that you embody that value?
Definitely. What resonates with me about Queen's values is how closely they reflect how I already try to lead. For example, I really value integrity and advanced-based decision making, which shape my work at the Canada Revenue Agency, supporting executive dashboards used for national planning. I also strongly connect with responsibility and developing others, which guided my leadership journey at JCI Ottawa. And I believe strong outcomes from respectful collaboration across diverse perspectives. And that's been central to my work across public sector and global team. And because of that alignment, I see Smith not just as a program for me, but as a leadership community I'm excited to contribute to.
Okay. Um, and though, do you have like a specific example though that you can reference that speaks to one specific value, one of the specific values?
Definitely. I can share an example from my work because, as I said, I really help to people grow and I make sure I really connect with the growth mindset, right? So let me give you an example. When I was working at the Canada Revenue Agency, I got an opportunity to mentor the project managers under the Youth Network Mentorship Program. And that program really helped me and to understand the problems which the Canada Revenue Agency was facing at that time. As I'm coming from a project background and I do have some certification in the project management domain, that really helped me to mentor the project managers to understand the nuances they were actually facing during their roles. So, because as the value says, helping and developing others, and I think this example really perfectly resonates with the values which I can actually bring to this Smith Global MBA.
Excellent. Thank you so much. One final question. It's a weird one, but we like to call it sort of your, I don't know, anti-resume or the opposite of your resume. What's one thing about you that's not conveyed effectively on your resume that you wish to share with the admissions committee?
Oh, this is such a different question. No one asked me so far, but I really want to answer it in a perspective which reflects what is not mentioned on my resume, right? So, as you can see, everything is on there, but one thing is still I can include is the mentorship part. Recently, I became a member of PMI as a Flash mentor. I attended one of their events at Algonquin College, where I mentored a couple of students and professionals how they can actually traverse and grow in their leadership journey in the project and program management space.
Okay, that's great. Yes, thank you. Thanks for sharing that, Harleen. And thank you for sharing all, your experiences and your motivations for pursuing an MBA. I'm going to turn it over to you if there's anything else you wish to share and or if you have any other questions for me or have any questions for me.
So first of all, Brenda, I want to thank you for putting your time, energy in this interview. I really appreciate that you took out your precious time to have a conversation with me to understand my goals, aspirations, and how I can be a potential student at Smith Global MPA. So yeah, I do have a couple of questions. Let me ask you. So my first question is, what distinguishes the most successful global MBA participants at Smith? Second, how do you see the global MBA community evolving over the next few years? And where do you think incoming students can contribute most effectively? And are there any opportunities to explore strategy and AI transformation initiatives and interactions through electives or applied projects? So that's all from my end. I really want to thank you to be with me during the whole conversation. I really enjoyed it, and hopefully I can join Smith School of Business in the upcoming cohort. Thanks again.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you, Harleen. So in terms of next steps, we will be meeting as a group to discuss your overall application and then the rest of the applicants as well. And so we hope to be able to communicate a decision to you within the next 2-3 weeks.
Sounds good. I look
Yeah.
forward to the next steps.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay, bye. We'll pretend to hang up. That's a weird, awkward hang up. Okay, well, what are you thinking? How are you doing?
I think okay. So, Brenda, today you asked questions not directly, but in a really grounded manner, maybe in a really rounded manner, not grounded, more towards you changed the question you were asking, you were thinking to ask the same thing, but in a more um, twinkled manner, I can say, right? Instead of answering it straightforward. So yeah, it was okay, but there was one question regarding, yeah, what were, how, went and above. What was that question? Could you please describe the situation where you went and above for,
Yeah, above and beyond. Yeah.
yeah, what was the question?
Yeah, can you please describe a situation where you went above and beyond what we call like the call of duty? You did extra,
Yeah.
basically.
Do
Yeah.
you think, did I explain it correctly? I mean, the situation, because actually I explained the initiative I took in the past. So does it really align with the question, what I explained?
I think so. That was your answer was the
Uh,
waterfall
a
one, right?
waterfall agile to
Yeah.
assist answer, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Um, so that one I think I gave you feedback in the moment just to give a little bit of, they may not know what waterfall, the difference between waterfall and agile. And
Okay.
you don't necessarily have to give the definition of each, but you could easily say they're different methodologies.
Okay.
And I assume the users or the individuals on the team
Mhm.
didn't understand that like there was a lack of like needing to do a little bit extra mentorship in that situation. That was the above and
Mhm.
beyond. Is that the gist of?
Yeah, I mean, why I took that initiative so that employees can understand the importance of agile perspective, right? How they can implement the agile learnings in their respective projects. So that was the
Yeah.
initiative I took at that time. And to actually make sure they understand it, I did some kind of sessions with them. I organized the trainings at University of Ottawa. So it's like a kind of
Yeah.
mentorship right here.
Yeah, I think absolutely. I thought that was a great experience. And if you felt that it didn't come through, you could just summarize it by answering the question. And like
Mhm.
by the above and beyond piece was, it wasn't as an expectation that I would go and do all this mentorship.
Okay, and also you asked me, can you explain the situation where you um, took a leadership position, right? But I actually end up explaining that because I was thinking, okay, what should I explain? So I explained the complex or challenge example. So do you think that really aligns with the answer? Because when I was explaining that question, I was trying to relate it or connect with the leadership level. So do you think it was a perfect example somewhere down the line? Because when you were actually trying to do the migration procedures, you really need the leadership approvals. So now I was thinking maybe I can modify a little bit more. You can say I was at a leadership level and my team figured out there was a challenge with the server. So they reached out to me to seek my guidance. And at that time, I was in a position to help them navigate this challenge. So being as a leader, I approved it and I also sat in those discussions with them in kind of giving the funding, everything like something I can relate to it, right? Somewhere like this. Yeah.
I think adding that extra element will definitely enhance and amplify like that
Yeah,
leadership
because
competency.
Yeah, it means the leadership is not only aware from the business perspective, but I mean, being a leader, I'm also aware about the technicalities as well. So I think if something comes like this, I should be able to modify at that time. So I think that should be okay, right?
Yeah, I think so. And I think keeping in mind the leadership piece, it doesn't have to be a formal position, right? Like
Mhm.
it's your actions that are supporting that
Ah,
you're acting
okay.
like a leader too. So,
Okay, okay, because
yeah,
I thought you
yeah.
were asking me at a very leadership level, like it's like a senior manager or having some conflicts between the budgets and everything. So I was thinking from that perspective, but okay. But I think the
Yeah.
example which I gave at that time really aligns with your question, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It was like your role in like taking some form of initiative, right? That you took the initiative and then also champion and helping to support moving
Mm.
said initiative or process forward in a healthy, constructive, positive way.
Mhm. Even my example which I gave during Queen's Valley question, that also was perfect, right?
Yeah, once you
Um,
answered the follow-up question. So that's my big feedback today is
okay,
um are you well, I'll let you ask all your questions, but that was the one piece in that
okay.
I thought yeah, once
And
you answered the question I actually asked, I thought absolutely that was really well done. Yeah. And
I
again, just
mean,
reiterating which value and and like definitely making the direct connection, right?
so
But the
okay.
mentorship was the value. That was the
So
value, right?
mm, yeah, so because you asked me the value, I explained the values, but do you want me if they don't ask me the example specifically, then I should not go into it because later you
Exactly.
asked me, could you please explain the situation with an example where your values actually contributed towards any organization's mission? And that's what I did, right? So until unless they don't ask me, I shouldn't go into it. Like if I
Exactly.
have a time, then I can go. Otherwise, that's okay. Just leave it as it is, right?
Yep, yep. But the
Okay.
initial question I had asked you was to attach it to a specific example. So just make sure you're just listening to the to how they
Uh,
ask the question.
so initially you already asked me to attach it to
Yeah,
an. Oh, so okay.
yeah,
I think
yeah.
I'm okay.
I know
Mm-hmm,
because you're anticipating the other question, so you have that one already. Which is why I asked it just to keep you nimble, and that
okay.
ability to think on your feet.
And I think there was one question, yeah, related to the global economy. So before I ask that question, I just want to make sure there are three Canadian newspapers which I should remember, like just to make sure. The Globe and Mail, which you told me yesterday. Then I think there's another Financial Times, and also we have a National Post as well, right?
That's yeah, the National Post is
But it's
another
better
one.
just to name only one, the Globe and Mail, right? That's okay. If they ask me, do you read newspapers or not? All right.
Well, I'm always saying like it's always good to reference what you really do. I don't profess making things up, but
Okay.
what I will tell you, a lot of MBAs that I interview and coach that they're keeping a pulse on things like the Financial Times, The Economist, um, Global Mail. But I will say somebody in the technology space, they're doing Reddit, they're doing following people on social media, like different influencers as well. So it's different.
Yeah,
It's a
I
bit
can
of a
take the
mix.
names of the influencer. Let's say Satya Nadella, right? Or maybe I can say, who's what was that guy? Sundar Pichai. I can take the IT giant companies leaders name, right? And as I said, like as I already explained during the AI question which asked me, right? What are the three? You asked me like what were the three prevailing what were the prevailing issues in the economy. So I just give you a brief about the name of the issues, right? The inflation-driven operating system pressure and the global geopolitical energy, and finally the transition towards AI-enabled operating system, like the geopolitical tensions. I gave you those. And then you asked me, do you read any blog post or something. Then I explained you that yeah, I'm actively interested in reading, and I'm already reading the LinkedIn, Substack, and technical blog posts to make sure I understand the technicalities and AI challenges in the existing world. Right. So I think
Yeah.
that was a correct answer, right?
If I
Just to
asked those questions, but I thought I'd asked, and maybe when you watch back, but I also thought I asked, what was one article or podcast or something
yeah.
you reviewed that, like specifically, that would make a good class discussion? And so even referencing what that was, what that article was, what that podcast was, what that video, whatever it might have been, like referencing, oh yes, there was one I just listened to a podcast where there was an interview with XYZ and it talked about AI and the blah 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 blah, whatever that is, and then you can kind of share that broader perspective that you'd shared about
Okay.
AI in the classroom. So it depends how it's asked.
Yeah, but the way you asked me, was that okay at that time? I
You
think
didn't answer the question directly, so that's why I asked it again. So just that's my biggest feedback is just listen to like how the questions, because I think you prepared so much that you're
yeah.
anticipating how they're going to ask. And so
Yeah.
just make sure that because they could ask it in a different way. So I just want you to be prepared just to, and if you don't have clarity, like just say, just want to clarify, are you looking for just, um, and just like reiterate what your
Hmm.
perception of what the question is. Not for every question, but there may
Yeah,
be a
but
couple.
sometimes if I'm not quite clear, I can say just to make sure I understand your question, you're looking to you're looking to answer me this question in this specific manner. Something like that. I
Yeah.
can answer that.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Yep. That was my biggest. I wrote it down, I think, twice. Um, as well. The follow-up question. So can I share some of just a couple things I thought overall? Sorry, I'll just stop. Do you have any other questions or anything else, or do you want me to run through
Uh,
my?
no, I think that's okay. Yeah, you can give your feedback and the pointers to me for today.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I thought this was your strongest interview. Great
Oh,
stuff.
seriously?
Yes,
Oh my
yes.
gosh, thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, I thought overall, yeah, you had you're coming across a lot more authentically in terms of the tone and the confidence as well. I could tell, I think that you might be looking up above, and so I don't like it. I can see a little bit of your eyes darting, whether you're reading and then looking and then reading and then looking. So just be mindful of that,
Mhm.
whether or not that was actually happening. That
Yeah, a little
yeah.
bit I was doing, but you were actually yeah, because I thought I was losing somewhere, then I was like, okay, I can look here and there. So was that more frequent? Like, what was that
Well,
like? That's
for
why.
me, and maybe because I know you're reading, it seems a little more obvious that you might be as well. But
Mhm.
so my recommendation again, like I think it's okay to glance initially to kind of go, okay, I'm going to use this example, and then hopefully you're not reading throughout each of the examples. Would be the ideal situation um, as well.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
um, I
Because I
mean,
put a little
it
bit
wasn't
sticky notes
completely
here
obvious.
and
Yeah,
yeah.
it wasn't completely obvious, but for me, it was noticeable for more at the beginning. And to be honest, towards as the interview flowed more, I felt like you got better and stronger. So I don't know if you're reading less as the interview progressed.
Yeah, because initially, see the interview when the interview starts, I little bit
Yeah.
feel
Nervous.
anxious.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
instead of
Yeah. Yeah.
then I
Yeah.
started reading. I was like, okay, as the interview goes like with its flow, then I was like, okay, I'm relaxed. It's just a
Yeah.
conversation. But when
Yeah.
it starts,
Exactly.
it makes me nervous.
Yeah. Well, and I would love like this part of your personality to come through tomorrow because you're just so lovely, like the joyful part of it. So if there's a way that that can come through, probably towards the end, because you'll feel a little bit more like relaxed, that would be, I think, a nice
Yeah.
nice for them to
In
see
the
the
end,
side of
it
you.
feels like it's okay, but
Yeah.
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 But
Yeah.
that's why because today I put whatever I thought I should put right on the my screen here and there. So what? How was the screen glaring and eye contact? You said I was looking here and then was that too much?
A little bit. Yeah, I would say a little bit. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
even if I'm wearing glasses, you can actually see it, right?
I can tell because right now I can tell you're looking at me, and then but I
Okay.
can see that you're looking like usually up is what I would see mostly. Yeah, and
A
then
little
down and
bit,
then
I
up.
have something.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
So
because
just to let you know that that's
uh,
so just
but
uh
it's not quite up. It's just Just
Yeah.
a
Just a little bit.
crease.
Yeah.
A
I
little.
know, I know. And
Yeah.
they may not pick it up, but I feel like I need to share that with you to make sure that you
No,
know these
no.
things when you go
Yeah.
in.
So also,
Um,
Brenda, because when I was applying for the application, right, I think I also shared with you, there were fields like how many people reported to you. It's just I'm asking for your, because they already asked me how many people reported to you, what was your organization, what was your domain. So do you think they probably gonna, let's say if they take an they may take an example, a situation, and then they can counterpart me. I mean, they can counter part me with different kinds of questions, right? What was the accountabilities, what you did at that time, how
they
many people reported to you? They can because they want to see the leadership position which I had into a specific role and how many people I was managing them. Maybe did they ever face any kind of situation they need assistance from me? So maybe just to elaborate my position, right? They may or they may not, right? Because it really depends upon the person's profile, right? A candidate's
yeah,
individual's
yeah, they may or may not.
position.
Yeah, they may or they may not. There might be, like they may, like, yeah, say I see at, JCI or at Ericsson, you did this
Yeah,
project. Can you elaborate?
because I
I
was
doubt
thinking,
they
mhm,
will, to be
mhm,
honest, but if they do,
mhm.
it's on your resume.
Yeah,
So at least
because
you'll, yeah,
I was thinking to I didn't get the chance. Let's see, I should be able to get it's already there, right? Somewhere in one of my documents, a little bit more enhanced version what I did at JCI because JCI includes like very leadership level positions, right? I want to make sure if they ask me specific leadership positions at JCI, I should come up with those. I have it. It's here. It's a little bit very brief. I want to make sure if they ask me what you did as a director, so it should come up. Let me read it that a little bit more. Just I think that's what I feel
just in
I should
case. Yeah,
prepare for it, right?
if you feel that.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
The other question, I will say your mistake, I thought you did great. And that might have been like at the
Oh,
point in
great.
time. Yeah, I thought you did great. I wrote it down and I wanted to highlight that because the way you answered it, it felt like it was authentic. It was a good, like a really well explained, like that was, I felt like your strongest answer. So it may have come at the time where all of a sudden, I think I noticed a shift where you weren't as nervous and you were like, it was flowing better, as well. So
Oh,
I thought that was,
when I was answering the mistake question, you mean that was a great one.
yeah,
Yeah, I think I gave the example from University of Ottawa, right? The human
yeah.
resources. So one more thing I want to share here. I gave example across my Ericsson, U Ottawa, Canada Revenue Agency, JCI. So I mean, it's okay, right? Because even if I'm explaining my University of Ottawa experience, it should be fine because I was with University of Ottawa in 2021 and 2022, and that's okay. Even if I'm giving those examples in 2026, that should be fine. Instead of
Yeah.
just giving the examples from my recent, right?
Exactly. You're trying to kind of share a little bit of breadth of your experiences.
Yeah, and that's
Yeah,
okay.
across
That's
the
probably
spectrum.
fine.
Yeah, I think
Okay.
that's good that you're not like using all your
Mhm,
examples from
mhm,
JCI or from
mhm.
Ericsson. Like
And
it's a good
because
mix.
as I already told you, even Nicholas, he was asking me what projects you did in the past, even in the AI, because everyone is behind the AI part, right?
Yeah.
As I said, like I created one project. So I was thinking, because I think I got this thought yesterday or today in the morning, because my project is already on production. Production as it means it's already live. If they want me to showcase the project, I should be able to do that. I can say I created this project. I can name a little bit of brief if they ask me about it. And then I can say I'm happy to share what I created. It's already live and it's working, and other users are using it according to their needs. So at
Yeah.
that time, I can actually demonstrate the learnings which I turned into practical product.
Okay.
Right? I mean, I was thinking if they ask me, I should be able to demonstrate it at that time. And I think that's okay, right?
Yeah.
Which
Well, I
shows
think yeah,
my work, right? I mean,
yeah, for sure. The only other piece of feedback that I have that's constructive is you tended to use a lot more filler for every question. So when I say filler, so when I ask like what's a weakness, you're like, that's a really good question. And then you say it's really important to blah, 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 blah. or I asked you, when you went above and beyond, and you give a lot more like preamble than you need
Mm-hmm.
to. So I would tighten up that, I call it preamble, or
Mm-hmm.
maybe it's filler
Mm-hmm.
as well.
Okay.
Like just
So
sometimes
you
just
mean,
jumping right into the answer would be good for most of the answers. The odd one, you can say, yeah, that's an interesting question, or it's an important
yeah,
question.
I think one
Um,
of the question you asked me, I was thinking what to answer even. At that
yeah,
time, I was
I
thinking,
know.
see, so
Yeah.
when you say pillars, if I'm giving that, it means I'm actually thinking, or what should I say, which example should I pick at that time? So that's the way I always,
Yeah.
and one thing, what I feel like I should still I'm figuring out. Let's say you ask me any question. Sometimes I already say, I already mentioned, okay, definitely, let me give an example, right? Sure. So how should I start my answer? I was just thinking, I mean, sometimes I say, okay, definitely, awesome, sure, let me give an example. So what kind of phrases I can say, not lines, just one or two words, picky words I should use to make sure it shows the great start.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean,
So you don't even need to phrase. You could just jump in.
okay, okay,
Or
okay,
you could say, or even just like, let me tell you about the experience I had here. I think this fits. I think
okay.
this aligns with
Let me
that
give an
teamwork.
example. I mean,
Yeah.
instead of sure, definitely, yeah. I mean, it's better not to use these kind of.
Well, and you could say, yes, I do have a good experience. And then the best example would be X, or let me tell you about.
Okay,
So you,
because
so you can mix it up. It depends on there, but I could totally save your filler or your little preambles for the examples for when you really need it. For those examples that you may have to be thinking a little on your feet. But if you use a filler all the time, it becomes a pattern, and it's like, just answer the question as
okay,
well.
the interviewer wants to hear what she or he asked, right?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
okay.
Um,
Because
yeah,
sometimes
but
I already use, like, one example I can share from my previous experience, or I
yeah,
can say an example coming to top of my mind as something like that. But
exactly.
instead of
Yeah,
yes, oh yeah, I used those in the past.
yeah,
So
exactly. No, I
yeah,
think that I think
because
that sounds
today
good.
and yesterday there was nothing on my screen, right? And now there is little bit here and there. So that's why now you can actually see I'm looking here and there.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
looking.
So you make a decision whether you put things here or there, or if you just like only certain things, or if you have something, I don't know. I don't know what the best system is
Was
for
that a
everyone.
negative part? Is it a negative part?
Well, if they can tell you're fully reading, I don't mind people glancing. I don't think they mind people glancing. They especially know virtual that you can glance and look at. And I've even when I've been in interviews on both sides,
Mm.
in
And
different
people do that.
situations. I'm just, I made some notes. Like if you feel like it's obvious, you're like, I just want to make sure I'm capturing the right example here, if you want to. Um, but yeah, like it's obvious. It's obvious to me that you are reading, or like
Mhm.
it's okay. So sorry, I should finish my thought. It's okay to glance, to kind of go, okay, wait a minute, that example. But if you're reading word for word or almost
Mhm.
word for word, and it seems kind of obvious, then that's not great. Right? That's not what
Okay.
we're striving for. We want that, like that all.
Was
And I
that
don't
too
think you need
much?
to. I don't
Yeah.
think you need to anymore. Like I feel like your
Yeah, yeah.
experiences.
I know
We
my stories, but was
Yeah.
that too much? Like, I think there was some situations, not that too much, right?
Yeah, I answered that question. Yeah, yeah, I shared that. At the very beginning, it was a little more, and then you got more comfortable as the interview progressed, and it wasn't as obvious. So, yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, because I was a
Um,
little nervous. So
yeah,
yeah,
it's
yeah,
just a
sure.
dial down. That's a dial down. It's not an eliminate, it's just a dial down. And so for the interview, I've got three things I want to share with you to
Hmm.
uh, before we go.
Hmm.
Very important that you're there on time or a few minutes early,
Yeah, I'm gonna
right?
have to. Yeah,
Yep,
yeah, sure.
yep. I just feel like I need to say that because most meetings we don't start on time, so I just want to make sure
Oh,
professionally at the interview.
definitely. I was
Um,
feeling that today and that I should join early because it was more of a kind of professional one today, right?
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Even joining a couple minutes early, not right on just in case you run into technical issues,
Yeah,
check the
you never know.
technology,
Exactly.
check the link ahead of time, do all that ahead of time, just so that that's one less thing that you're not worrying about. Um,
Hmm.
do something I recommend. I talked about this with our coaching as well, but it's under the School of Psychology. Uh, half hour, an hour before the interview, or even in the morning, but even shortly before, do something that gets you in a happy mood or gets you a little bit energized. So I remember we talked a
Yes.
little bit about doing like playing music and doing a little happy dance
No,
or,
no, no, no. I don't
uh,
want to play music.
yeah. Well, I
That
mean,
makes me more
before.
tense. No,
Okay. Well, do
no,
something, yeah,
no,
something
no.
that doesn't make you tense, but that,
I can
that
just
actually,
sit and relax. I can breathe. I can say, okay, it's just a
yeah,
conversation. It's
yeah,
okay. I prepared. I did so much. I had so many conversations.
exactly.
Still, I should think about Brenda sitting in front of me and taking my interview. I was thinking I should think only that way. Otherwise, I'll be like, oh,
Yeah.
who's taking my
Yeah.
interview?
Yeah, like and
Otherwise,
some
yeah.
people like to do physical things like stretch their body big, there's lots of science behind that that helps with nerves and helps you perform better or taking deep breaths or something like that. But that's the school, like it's under the school of psychology. I know it sounds kind of silly, but it helps to kind of
Okay.
alleviate some of those nerves. Um, and
But
then
overall,
after,
it.
yeah,
Mm,
go ahead.
But overall, how was it? It's good,
Oh,
right?
you're a 9.5. You were a
Oh my
9.5
God.
today. Yeah, yeah,
Oh my God.
yeah.
It's just I need to be more precise. If someone is asking me an example, I should give. Otherwise, everything was
Yeah,
okay, right?
yeah.
9.1.
9.5. Yep. Yep.
Wow.
No, I think that's great. Yes, yes. A plus. I would definitely move you on to the next. I'd recommend you. Um, and especially again, if you can show a little bit more of like,
Why
your
don't
real
you tell this
personality.
lady to take me as it is, right? You should make some
Yeah.
connections, Brenda at Queens.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And then after your interview, make sure, I think you're probably already going to do this, but probably sending out a few thank you notes, obviously to
Hmm.
Carrie, to Bethany, to
Yeah,
anybody who's helped you along. I
yeah,
think it's
sure.
nice for you to share that. I just wrapped up my interview. I just want to say thank you so much for answering all. I know I've asked a lot of questions throughout this
Mhm.
process, and I just really
Even
appreciate
to
all your
everyone
support.
the with whom I started, like the Gloria, Elizabeth, and
Yeah,
even to Carrie as well, right? I should say
yes,
thank
definitely to
the people
Carrie,
who are
the
gonna interview
interviewer.
me as well. Okay, the
Yeah, but
interviewer.
not one big one. I
Mm.
would do individual.
Just,
Yeah.
oh, individually?
Yes. Yes. I wouldn't do
Okay,
one big one. I would do an individual. I think that would be a little bit more meaningful. Um,
okay.
yeah.
Because I think probably they're gonna sit and they're gonna discuss my profile. Some
Yeah.
or the other way, they all are connected, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. Okay. All right. And with that, are you going to, you're going to let me know how it goes? I'll see. I'm out a little bit, so we'll connect after the interview.
Okay. At
I
what
won't
time you
be
will be available right tomorrow?
like I said, I'm probably not going to be home till like 7:30 or 8, so we may need to connect on the Thursday morning, but we'll send me a message when you're done and I'll message you when I get home.
Sure.
And let you know yeah, let you know if we can chat, and if I'm not able to, then we'll just chat first thing in the morning on the Thursday
Perfect.
as
Yeah,
well.
please, 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 Brenda, pray for me. That
I will, of course, I'm going to send you prayers and I'm going to send you all positive thoughts, but I also think you don't need luck. You've been preparing. I think you've got this. I'm very proud of
yeah.
you. Yeah, I hope you'll come out of it and go, okay, it was harder with Brenda.
No,
And it
no.
actually, like, it was actually hard. The interviews were more challenging with me, that you feel like this was like a piece of cake, a walk in
I
the
hope
park.
so. Yeah, I wish it should be like this, like just because everything, see, everything is available on my profile, on my LinkedIn, everything is mentioned in my resume. So yeah, because
Yeah,
the minimum requirement, what I can see, even you can see as well on the website, is like they need minimum 2 years of work experience. So I'm not sure what's their filtering criteria or what they're thinking to admit these students for this program. So
yeah,
hopefully they
yeah,
won't go into the nitty-gritties of the experience which I had so far.
yeah.
And yeah,
And
if
if
they
they do,
ask me,
you're prepared for it. I think you're
yeah, yeah,
prepared for
even
anything. Yeah,
yeah, yeah, because they if they even ask me why did you left? Are you working
yeah,
as a freelancer? I can say right now I'm just taking a break from my career just to make
yeah,
sure I'm up to the speed in the AI transitioned era. So I did
yeah.
certification and I'm actively looking for my next job. Yeah, so something like
It's
that I
great.
can
You've
prepare,
got it
right?
all.
Because
You've got all the
yeah,
answers in you. You
yeah,
got it all.
with
You've done all the soul searching, all the practice. So you've got it where you're articulate, but you also have it here and in here. So,
Yeah, because we practice as well, right? That I can say I was all preparing for my MBA application, so I just took a break from my
yeah.
career because I want to make sure I'm up to the speed, and especially in the current changing world. So I need to get all the things right in
Oh,
my
yeah.
towards my
There's
career
nobody who's
journey.
busier than I've met. Like you are the busiest person I've met.
I know,
Um, who
you
doesn't
know,
have a full-time
I
job. So,
my
yeah.
mom,
Oh,
my mom doesn't know everything what I'm doing, right? I mean, I told her that I'm learning. I was like, she said, why